Hello everyone, it's Sam Salty here to give my verdict on desktop machines that I've used between HP EliteDesk 800 Gen 4, which is an 8 Gen i5 system, and a Dell Vostro 3888, which is a 10 Gen i3. Yeah, this is a very conducive or tricky content that I'm about to review, but it's going to be a brief and then precise content because I'm just giving my general assessment between how the performance I noticed between these two machines. To be sincere, let me give out the specs of the HP as compared to the specs of the Dell. So the HP was equipped with an 8 Gen i5 8500 CPU, which was clocked at 3 GHz, 6 cores, and it can turbo boost to 4.1, I'm sure, gigahertz. So initially it had 6 cores but no threads, so it's a very raw performance, and it had 4 RAM slots, that's DDR4, and I expect it to a 16 gig 2666 megahertz speed DDR4 RAM, and the machine had on 2 onboard SSD slots, but fortunately or unfortunately for me, I used one, and I was using an NVMe 256 SSD together with my basic drives. So the drives I was using with the machine was 3 times 1 terabyte drives. So that was the spec of the HP. So let's move on to the Dell. And to be precise, the Dell was also equipped with an Intel i3 1100 CPU, which is 4 cores, 8 threads, and it was clocked at 3.6 gigahertz, and it could boost to 4.3 gigahertz per each core. So the difference between the two, now here comes the difference. The i5 couldn't hyper-thread, but the i3, that's the 10 gen, can hyper-thread. But unfortunately, it has 4 physical cores, but has extra 4 more logical cores, which boost and add up, making 8 threads. So meaning 4 physical, 4 logical, which can all boost and hyper-thread, making and or balancing the system to give a little bit more performance here. So that one was also equipped with 16 gig RAM. Initially, the other peripherals or components were the same, so the difference was only, let's say the difference was the CPU. And let's move on to the graphic cards. I had 3 different kinds of cards, to which I'm going to explain or define. I was using GTX 980 4 gig, R9 390 8 gig, and GTX 1050 Ti 4 gig. So let me start with the GTX 1050 Ti 4 gig. Among these 3 cards, the 1050 Ti had the minimum, or it was the low performing card here, because its power draw and its specs based on the price, that one had little kind of budget friendly. That one was the most budget friendly card here, sorry. So performance of that card was okay, to be honest. And one thing I realized, my card I used was Palette, that was the brand, and it wasn't pulling any power, so it could work with any OEM machine or any kind of gaming machine. You just want the only thing you have to do is just to throw in the card, and then you are good to go. And then the GTX 980, as usual, is also a power hungry card, but its power draw or its TDP is around 250 watts. Yeah, so its recommended power supply should be something around 550 watts. You could be good to go with that. But unfortunately here, the AMD R9 390 8GB had the most intense power draw here. So therefore, its TDP initially is 350. It's the power that the card alone can pull is 375 watts. So recommended or suggested power supply, you should aim at 600 watts and above. So meaning if you use anything below 600 watts, you ain't gonna get the stability of the card. And even most of the titles won't run. You'll be getting frequent restarts of the machine, and then it will just keep recurring. So that was the challenge with the AMD card. So let's move to performance. Like I said, the 1050 had, or the 1050 was the most budget friendly card, so you shouldn't expect much from this card. So I was able to play, let me name 5 titles that I used my card to benchmark. To begin with, I played these old titles. Usually I don't play modern titles, so I started with GTA 5, the 8th gen. To be honest, there wasn't much of the FPS margin. It's not that oblivious to that extent. There are some titles you can see much difference, but initially, it depended on the card. Let's say the 1050 Ti, like I was saying, the GTA 5, I was playing high settings, 1080p. Everything was on high, and I achieved above 60 FPS. So the average FPS that I noticed when it dipped initially, sometimes these kind of games, when you reach the more demanding areas, you see some aspect of glitch or lag in the game. So I usually use Afterburner to check out my card's performance, anything relating to the card, being it the terms, the temperature, the power draw, the clock speed, the memory run bandwidth, and all those kind of stuff. So I noticed the average FPS I had with the 1050 Ti was around 38. To be honest, that was what I realized on the 8th gen i5. So for GTA 5, and then the maximum FPS was around 87 or so, 87. So meaning the best FPS I had with the 1050 Ti was 87, and the worst or the minimum was 30 column. So I moved to God of War as usual. This is a very demanding title. This is where the situation is, because the card is a budget friendly card and it really doesn't consume much power. God of War is also a very demanding title that needs more hardware or more ability from a graphic card. So I tried to play the original settings of the game, but I couldn't play full HD, that's 1080p resolution, with the card, because it was barely playable, or it was 100% unplayable here. So to be honest with you, God of War original settings, I used max fidelity as usual. As that one will upscale the game. Initially it was set to 1080p, but I was playing below something around 720p. And then the maximum FPS I had was below 40, so it was around 38, 35, and it could dip to around 15 or 16 FPS. So that was the kind of range FPS I had. Yeah, so I noticed it was somehow not playable with the card, and I moved to FIFA 24. As you know, FIFA 24 is the current or the latest game in town, and it's one of the most demanding and most controversial game because the in-game settings can't be achieved or open when the game launch. So you have to, yeah, am I correct? Yeah. Before you can access the game settings to change your graphics, you have to launch the game before you will have the access. So it's not like the previous versions that you can open the application and then reduce the ability or the performance or the quality of the game to suit your card's performance. And this one is strictly DirectX 12 game. So yeah, the card is also DirectX 12.1, but due to its lack of stability or strength, yeah, and the 4 gig, it's okay, but I think it was really laggy. Yeah, and unfortunately I couldn't play 1080p low with this card. Sincerely speaking, I couldn't play 1080p low with this card because I tried and the FPS I was achieving was really not making sense in my opinion. Sorry for the word. Yeah, but that was the truth, because I had around 35 FPS max 1080p. And you know this kind of this sports title game, so playing with, and moreover I wasn't playing online, because I hope you know FIFA 24 can be played online or can be played offline with friends. So this one I was playing with a friend and it was a heated gameplay, so I was very desperate to win. Unfortunately I lost due to the lags. So yeah, that was the FPS I was achieving here too. And then which other game? I think Days Gone, similar issues. I couldn't play 1080p low. Okay, I couldn't play 1080p medium. I could play 1080p low, and even with that one, the FPS wasn't still encouraging. I was hovering around. Let me be sincere. 30s. Yeah, I think the card could play 1080p but at 30 FPS, and mostly the quality settings, the best it could do was medium or low. You can't play anything high and then achieve somehow 60. I hope you know 60 is standard, because that one you get more frames and then you get to enjoy the game or the quality of it very well. But as to 30 FPS, it's very itchy and it's very laggy, and you won't feel the smoothness of the game. So you might even get eye strains from that. Yeah. So Days Gone, I hope you know that one is also a very demanding title, so I couldn't play with the card. And then the last game was NBA. Yeah, I won't lie. So this was the game that the card was performing at its max, because I think NBA 2K23, yeah, that was the game I had. And with this game, I think it's demanding but not very demanding, because in this game I managed to play 1080p high settings with the card, and I could play on 60 FPS very smooth without any glitch or issues. Yeah, so everything went well with this card. So let me move to the opposition or the other machine, that's the 10th gen Dell. So initially, let's get the skirmishes right here. To be sincere, and let me be very fast forward, like straightforward here, the 10th gen performed slightly more stable and better with the with almost all the cards here, because initially I want to cite an example using the 1050 card that I earlier said the performance with the spec, that's the 8th gen machine. but I think I had a little more FPS in various games. I just want to be straightforward here. I had a little more FPS there. So let me cite example. Let's say if I had 38 FPS in Days Gone with the 8th gen, I could get around 41 FPS with the 10th gen. Yeah, so there was a little more improvement there, because I think, my opinion, and yeah, it's not even my opinion per se, because I usually like benchmarking my machines. So I used to, get to know more of the analysis between machines in general. Yeah, so I had a little more performance with the 10th gen here. So let me move to the other card. Let me go to the AMD side of things, so that I won't be partial. So the AMD R9 390, yeah, is the 8 gig card among the 3 cards I earlier said, and it's the most power hungry card. So I had to use a separate power supply to power the card separately from the machine. And as you can see from my background, this is one of the cases I was using earlier, and I was using a separate power supply to, I kept the machine in a black case, and it was a gaming case, which was very nice. Everything was cool. It was a custom power supply. I think it was 600 watts, and I was only powering the card separately with that 600 watts. But let's get to performance. Let me start with the games. Like I earlier said, GTA 5. Yeah, as usual, as you know, since the card is power hungry, it should give you the best of performance. It was able to play GTA 5 at 1080p, and even could play on 4K. Yeah, but the card has a limit. When you play on 4K, you only play at 30 FPS. You can't go above that. Anything you do 4K is limited to 30 FPS. So yeah, the GTA is an old title, so the card could play very well. Let's move to the other game, God of War. This is where the issues started. Yeah, to be sincere, let me rectify things here. God of War is the R9 390 is a card that had driver issues in recent time. It came way back in 2016, but unfortunately AMD stopped creating or prompting updates for the card. So its last received update in 2021. That was the last official supported drivers for the card. So I think that is the reason why the card is not performing as it was way back sometime. So with the game, like I was saying, God of War, I started noticing some kind of setbacks. Yeah, I couldn't achieve 60 FPS on. Okay, I could play medium settings due to its dedicated that it had. I hope you know 8 gig VRAM, it mean more. So, and the card had the most specs here, because on spec sheet wise it's 512 bits. The bandwidth is also bigger. The core clock and everything about the card is high. So yeah, I think it can perform, or it could perform better, but due to its driver crisis or driver issues, it has been limited in terms of performance, and that was how come I started facing those setbacks. So yeah, like I was saying earlier, God of War I could play medium settings, even could try playing high settings, but because of the uncertainty with drivers, you can see massive dips in games, and it's not as playable, or it's not as enjoyable as you think, because even 1080p you couldn't get stable 60 FPS. 1080p medium, yeah, that was the big. Even the original settings could dip at some kind of locations. So overall, or the average FPS, if I won't lie, was also around, let's approximate it to, let's say, 38 or 40. Yeah, because it could go above 60 in some areas, because most of the times I don't use VSync. I just want to see the raw performance of the cards. So yeah, um, the highest sometimes can go above 60, but the lowest two was around 38 or something around that side. That was with the God of War. So I moved to Days Gone. There was the same issue there too. Days Gone driver issues. So you can see the card had the best specs, but because of its driver or its modding driver issues, yeah, you see the game plays very well, but at some point you'll be experiencing some kind of weird setbacks. So Days Gone, the maximum it I was playing 1080p medium, and with that one I still couldn't achieve 60 fps stable. It could play at some areas, but the fps used to dip below sometimes, and then yeah, that one was also a challenging factor for me. So which other game before I go to the FIFA? I won't lie, for the FIFA it played it very well at 1080p 1080p medium settings. Yeah, sure, 60 fps is guaranteed. You can play very well, and it has a very nice textures and quality. So that one was also a very enjoying experience. And NBA 2K23 was also a very nice experience with the card. So value for money wise, the card performs on a scale of 100. I'll rate it 60. Yeah, but the power draw is a factor, or is a challenging factor for me here, because and one more setback about the card is also it's overheat very much, because this card has more specs than it was just built in a very small component that it was delivering such performance. So you have to expect heat. And let's say if you buy prepaid, the setbacks are some of the things that I'm saying here. Let's say if you are using lights, you have to your tariff will be increased, because yeah, the power draw that the card is pulling will be adding to your light bills and all this kind of stuff. So there are setbacks sometimes you have to consider when buying these things. So the last game I played with it, that was the NBA. Yeah, that one was also playable. Even if you expect 1050 Ti could play this game, meaning the 8 gig will also outperform that one. So it played it better, but occasionally there was a dip, because like I'm saying, driver issues. So it played it very well. Yeah, so let me go to the position or the other side of things. That's the Dell Vostro 3888. So like I noted earlier and told you one thing, anything that I said earlier about the 8th gen, that is the HP EliteDesk 800 gen for its performance, expect a little more from the Dell side of things, because the 10th gen outperformed the 8th gen in terms of titles. So by a minimum of 3 to 5 or 3 to 8 fps. So like I said earlier, this card, yeah, performance was balanced. That's why I rated the card 60 out of 100. So I hope you guys will get the calculations right here. So let me fast forward to the last card. That is the GTX 980. Yeah, so with the GTX 980 side of things, it started with, as usual, GTA 5. And let me clarify something here. Among the 3 cards that I noticed or I mentioned, my personal favorite is the GTX 980, and that is still what I have in my machine, as you can see. And the reason is, one thing is, 2 of my cards were Gigabyte WinForce. That is the GTX 980 and then the R9 390 8 gig. But I always prefer using the GTX 980 because first and foremost it's NVIDIA and it still supports the latest drivers. Secondly, it outperformed the remaining two cards in almost all the titles. I could play some of the games on even 4K settings. It was somehow better. It was almost stable playing 2K titles, and you should know playing 1080p wasn't a problem with the card. So all the 5 titles I mentioned earlier, GTA 5, this card could play even on 4K settings, even ultra wide screens. You can just use this card to play. You can see I'm running 4 monitor system or monitor setups here, but I'm using this card because I really cherish or prefer the performance from this card. So GTA wasn't a problem here. God of War, the most demanding game of all 5s I mentioned, I could achieve 60 FPS on medium. Original settings was the basic. I could even sometimes try playing high settings with the card, and then I have to now set in or play this kind of FSR to achieve more stable FPS. So if I want to play high settings, I use FSR, and then even I can sometimes play 1080p native 60 FPS without glitches or any challenges here. So let me move to Days Gone. That's the 3rd game on the list. As usual, since I'm saying almost all the titles were playable, Days Gone, don't expect anything below 60 because I could play 1080p 60 with this card very well without any setback. Could even try playing 2K settings and even sometimes get stable 60, but I used to play high settings with this card and it was very nice experience from it. So Days Gone 1080p guaranteed 60 FPS, but if you want to increase your settings, you should reduce your quality to, let's say, medium, and then just push your resolution to the 2K settings, and then you are going to also enjoy yourself using that kind of preset. So the next game on the list, FIFA 24. Here is where I noticed one thing. The game was very playable at some point, but sometimes when I go online, I used to face some kind of weird setbacks. Sometimes I'll be seeing some FPS drop or dip in game performance sometimes. So I wanted to find out what was the actual reason behind such challenges that I had, and I realized maybe the FIFA 24 has an internal VRAM limitations or kind of things that will limit you, because sometimes most of the times, since I've been using MSI Afterburner to run check my card's performance, and you should know one thing: because of the anti-cheat in the FIFA 24 gameplay, you won't be able to see the display of the MSI Afterburner app, so you won't get to know what are the setbacks that cause your card to glitch or in-game glitches. You won't get to know the things that hinder those kind of stuff. So I've been wondering, but I just, out of my own personal analysis, I think maybe it's a VRAM limitation that sometimes used to cause. It just happens occasionally. It's not as frequent as something serious. So it could play the game very well. Even I've tried playing high settings with the card, it played very well. But due to the setback that I said, once in a while you can just have that kind of challenges. So FIFA 24 is also guaranteed playing with this kind of cards. The last game on the list, that is NBA 2K23. So among all the games that I mentioned, GTA and NBA was the least demanding games here. So NBA, I can even play 2K with this card, 60 FPS, ultra settings, I'll play without any glitches. So this game is also playable with this card. So to summarize everything for you guys, I gave my personal preference or my personal best card that I still use, because I hope you know graphic card has been a heck in recent times, because due to the mining that went on for some while, the cards in system are not as effective or as strong as it should be. So if you have something that's working very well for you, you have to just stick to it for a while before at the right time you upgrade to the one that will suit your budget or your own preference. So that one is, I leave it up to you to decide for yourself. So among the three cards that I have, the winner or the ultimate winner or the crown champion card is the GTX 980 before I run the power hungry card, and then the last will be my, this arrangement is from my own personal analysis, the last will be the 1050 Ti, but some may also even rank the 1050 Ti before the AMD R9 in recent times, because maybe in terms of this kind latest softwares or apps that require the latest DirectX, people prefer using modern cards over cards that has no recent driver support. So I think these are all factors or things that people look into before they purchase stuffs. Yeah, so this is my personal experience about the thing that I had to come up here and explain to you guys. So that's what I have for you guys today. Subscribe to the channel,